One of the important aspects in spirituality, in Vedanta, is that we should do mananam. You know, the three mediums or stages of gaining knowledge are Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. So Shravanam is what you are doing right now, that is listening. But more important than Shravanam is when you do your personal reflection on the scriptures. Let it be the Gita, the Bible, the Quran, the Guru Granth Sahib. Mananam from your side is more important. And then finally, Nididhyasana, meaning meditation on the reality, on God, on the infinite consciousness, whatever you want to call it, to eventually realize who you really are. Firstly, what is the goal of life? What's the goal of life? To attain moksha. Self-realization. Right? These are all different terminologies, synonyms meaning the same thing. Nirvana, moksha, God realization, spiritual enlightenment, self-realization. It means the same. So what it means is you understanding that you are not this finite personality, but you are that infinite consciousness. Tat Tvam Asi. Each time we hear this aphorism, it should make our hair stand on end. Very profound. Because there are certain higher values that we ought to practice day and night for us to realize Brahman or God. And that is what Bhagwan highlights in this section. Now, the necessity of these qualities, friends, is that these qualities calms the mind. It renders the mind peaceful. You know, the whole world is talking about stress management. Everybody is stressed. The reason is we are not implementing these values in our life. It's as simple as that. If we're not implementing these values, then we are practicing the opposite of it, which I need not elaborate on, which we can see in the world very clearly. So anybody who practices these qualities is bound to be happy, peaceful, strong, intellectual, successful, whatever you want to call it. The first quality that the Lord mentions to gain spiritual enlightenment is amanitvam. Amanitvam means having no pride. In other words, being humble. This is one of the finest qualities that we can develop as a human being. And it comes through knowledge. It comes through higher values of life. So being humble and not arrogant, not egoistic about anything in life, about your positions, about your achievements. Now the point is, in the world, what we see is, when somebody achieves a little, even a little, not to talk about a lot, a little name, fame, power, position, money, status, the first thing that happens to a person is it gets into the head. A person becomes arrogant. There's a vanity, a self-conceit that creeps in. You know who I am? You know who you're talking to? I know what I'm talking about. Especially in North India, of course it's in South India also. The wealthy people, especially the youth, do you know who my father is? Here Bhagwan says, it's a height of foolishness if you have a pride for anything in life. In fact, people reject such people. We don't like such people, right? Who are arrogant, who are egoistic, who boast about their achievements. But a wise man, no matter whatever he achieves, no matter how wealthy he or she is, famous, powerful, the wise man says, so what? What's the big deal? Why? Bhagavan explains. There's a beautiful hymn. Some of you would have heard it. It's called Guru Vashtakam. And the punchline in that hymn is Tatakim. Tataka means, so what? It's a rhetorical question. You could be the richest person in the world. Tatakim. You could be the strongest person, the most powerful person, the most beautiful person, the most handsome person. Tatakim. It means nothing in front of that supreme reality, in front of Brahman that pervades the entire universe. We are just specks, small specks in this entire universe. So a wise man, a person on the spiritual path, will never allow this pride, this arrogance to get into his or her head. Now, there are two reasons why a person is not self-conceited and never allows this arrogance and pride to creep in. Because he does not lose sight of two facts of life. See how beautifully Bhagavan is explaining it over here. Because, our mind is such that there is a tendency to get into this arrogance when we achieve something more in life. So he highlights, just remember two things when it comes to pride. And if you want to be really humble. He says, however rich, wealthy, powerful you may be, the fact is you can never take full credit for your achievement. Right or wrong? Your contribution in that achievement is but a small infinitesimal part. There are innumerable people and factors that have got into your success. But in their excitement, egoistic people lose sight of this and say, well, I have done it all. I alone am responsible for my achievement. People say, I'm a self-made person. Nobody is a self-made person. Nobody. So this is the first thing that a arrogant person loses sight of. The second fact that an arrogant person forgets is that even, of course, there is your contribution in your achievement. You can't just become successful and gain great success in life. You have contributed, no doubt. But as the scriptures declare and as vouched by all the masters, and if we think clearly, we'll come to the same conclusion. Even that little talent with which you are able to gain success or gain any achievement in your life is a gift from the Almighty. It's a ray of God's glory manifesting through you. And this is vehemently declared in chapter 10 of the Gita, Vibhuti Yoga. The Lord says, wherever you see glory, wherever you see success, name, fame, power, understand it's my glory through that person. So if a person always remembers, look here, my glory is his ray of glory, it's his grace. That is the point of pride and ego. Right? So humility comes with these values. Second quality of a spiritual person who wants to gain God realization, who wants to realize that he or she is that infinite consciousness, is unpretentiousness. Adambitvam, says the Lord. In other words, being simple and modest, not showy, not pretending. Now, this is rampant in the world today. It's sad to see it. A general weakness in mankind is that we suffer from the malady of superiority complex. We want to impress others. As a result, we pretend to be more than what we actually are. We pretend to be more than what we actually are. And why do we do that? Why do you think we do that? Don't you see people putting up an accent, or by their clothing, the way they move, or the way they talk? They want to impress you. Why are they doing it? What's the psychology behind it? Huh?
Insecurity.
Yes. The main cause is they are relying on your opinion. People are relying on other people's opinions and judgments. So when others think high of us, we are elated. And when others think low of us, we are sad, we are dejected. And this happens when we are not true to ourselves. We fall prey to this weakness. We are not complete from within. We are not self-sufficient. And to cover this void, to fill this void within, we succumb to, as some person highlighted, it's called ASS syndrome. Attention seeking syndrome. Pretensions through our clothing, our ornamentation, our actions, our movement, our walking, our talking. Sometimes it's really disgusting when a person puts up an act, isn't it? So here Bhagwan is highlighting it's really ridiculous to base your life on other people's opinions and judgments. People are judging you through their own prism. A thief will look at you as his partner in crime. Right? So, how do we get rid of this malady? The way to overcome this weakness and not to rely on the opinions of others is when we assess ourselves correctly, we assess our strengths and weaknesses, and we are modest about it, then what does it matter? When somebody rates you higher than what you are, you understand that person is making a mistake, right? Imagine on a scale of 1 to 10, you're at 5, you know that. And somebody rates you 8, 9 or 10. You know that person is making a mistake. What's the point of getting elated and carried away? Vice versa. You're at 5. Somebody rates you at 3 or 2 or 1. You understand that person is making a mistake. His judgment is wrong. You know who you are, period. So do not rely on the opinions and judgments of others. And the main solution to this problem is gain self-sufficiency. What is self-sufficiency? What is self-sufficiency in spiritual parlance? Anybody? What do you think self-sufficiency is? How do we become self-sufficient?
Try to please God more than others and be honest about your strengths and weaknesses and build on your strengths.
Correct. That's right. This is all true, what you're saying, from a worldly point of view. But the main point is, as spiritual aspirants, you understand that you are not this body, mind and intellect. That you are that infinite consciousness. You're full. You're complete. You're that Satchidananda Atma. The body has its limitations. The mind has its limitations. The intellect has its limitations, not you. You are deriving your fulfillment, your happiness from within. You will not rely on the opinions of others. You will not depend on the objects and beings of the world for your happiness. You couldn't care less if somebody honors you or dishonors you, because your attention is on the Godhead within you. You shift your attention from the terrestrial to the transcendental, to the pure consciousness within and without. That's the ultimate solution to get over this malady of pretentiousness. Right? Especially, we see this clearly in marriages in India. Marriages. Each marriage wants to show that it's better than the other. And the way they show, the way... And just to please others, people take loans. And after the marriage, who has to pay the loans? People will come, enjoy and go away. In fact, so many people, the very people who you want to impress are the ones who backbite and criticize you. There was this wealthy industrialist in Bombay, and for his sons and daughters' wedding, he did so lavishly. He made the hotel seem as if it was something else. The carpets came from abroad. So many things came from abroad. He invited people. Those very people, his relatives, his cousins, they called the income tax and told, "Kahan se lekar aaya ye sab?" There was a raid in his house the very next day. Who do we want to impress? So a wise man does not suffer from this malady, from the ass syndrome, attention-seeking syndrome. Because he's self-sufficient, his attention is on Atman, on Brahman, on God. And such a person is always eager to help others. And he does not even seek attention. In a crowd, he will do his duty, his obligation, and he'll get out. Inconspicuous. He will not even show you that he has served. No axe to grind, seeking nothing. As was rightly pointed out, his attention is to please the Lord, nobody else. The Lord knows who you are, what you are. He lives on the principle of life is to give and not to take. First quality was? No pride, humility. Second quality? Unpretentiousness. Third quality? Ahimsa. What's the meaning of ahimsa? Non-violence. So when a bull is raging towards you to finish you off, tell ahimsa. "Aa bail mujhe maar." This quality is so misunderstood in our country and has practically ruined this country. People think the meaning of ahimsa is being passive. Let anyone come and trample us, walk over us, do nothing, ahimsa. That's exactly, we've experienced it, right? The foreigners came, the Mughals came, the Britishers came. We did nothing. Because Gita talks about ahimsa. If I can ask you all, what did the Lord tell? The Gita was given where? And the Lord is giving the Gita to Arjuna. He himself is talking this, right? Ahimsa and all. And on the other hand, what is he telling Arjuna? Fight. Finish off the evil forces. Finish off Duryodhana and the evil forces. Vigata Jvara. Fight the unrighteous. You see, all are gods and goddesses. Lord Rama will always be with a bow and an arrow. Lord Vishnu with a disc. So ahimsa does not mean being passive and allowing others to take advantage of you and finish you off. You know, when Britishers left the country, some journalists went and asked them, how come you left India? What is the main cause of you giving liberty? In fact, they didn't give liberty, we took it. So the journalist asked, was it because of mainly Mahatma Gandhi? And they openly admitted, no, of course, Mahatma Gandhi played an important role. It was not mainly because of him. You know why? What was the fear? Who were they really scared of? Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Netaji was not a violent person, but he told the Britishers, you act violently with us, we'll give it back to you. You repeat Jallianwala Bagh once more and you see what happens. And each time they acted violently against us, Netaji gave it back to them, left, right and center. He founded the Indian National Army. So whenever we talk about the freedom of a country, we must never forget the contribution of Netaji. Of course, his ending was a sad thing that's in controversy. That's a different story altogether. But both have to go hand in hand. Mahatma Gandhi, non-violence, and when somebody is acting funny, we can't be passive. So what does ahimsa actually mean? It means you do not wish to harm anybody. You never mean to hurt anyone, not even a fly. But when necessary, you ought to be aggressive. Imagine going to the bed and you're about to sleep and there's a cobra on your bed. And you practice ahimsa. Let us both go off to sleep. Only one person will get up in the morning. So, the Lord always advocated fight unrighteousness. Don't be a passive person. This is one of the main points in the Gita. Be intellectual. Don't be passive. Use your buddhi in everything. You know, there are 4 kinds of people. I mean, there are 2 broad classifications, intellectual and passive. And then there are subdivisions, the intellectually good, intellectually bad. Passive good, passive bad. So, an intellectual person is one who's always using his intellect. And a passive person is one who is not using his intellect. He's just going with the flow, not analyzing. So the passive bad people in the world are those who are just mechanically following their predecessors. They're in that environment of bad. So they're just following it without thinking what is right, what is wrong. And then there are the passive good. They are doing good in the world, or they are good people just because their predecessors have been good. But they are not intellectually thinking what is right, what is wrong. And then there is the intellectually bad, who scheme, who manipulate. And then there are the intellectually good. You know, we often say, honest people suffer in the world, the dishonest are successful, the dishonest are prosperous. And then we relate it to fate, naseeb. What is the main reason? Why is the dishonest successful and the honest suffering? What is the main cause? What do you think? Anybody? Many people say karma. Passiveness. The intellectually bad can easily manipulate the passive good. Majority of the people in the world are passive. They're not using their intellect. You know why? Because it takes effort to use your intellect. It takes effort to use your intellect in everything, to analyze. So the intellectually bad, that are the dishonest people, are overruling the passive good and passive bad. And the few intellectually good people are the ones who can change the world. That's the need of the hour. Now, let's see in Mahabharata itself, let's see these 4 categories of people. Who do you think the Pandavas were? If we were to categorize them in either intellectually good or passive bad, or passive good, intellectually bad. The Pandavas, Yudhishthir, Arjuna, and the 5 brothers. Exactly, passive good. And Duryodhan and Shakuni? Intellectually bad. The rest of the brothers of Duryodhan? Passive bad. And Krishna? The Pandavas suffered because they were passive good. They suffered at the hands of Shakuni and Duryodhan, who were intellectually manipulating, scheming against them. When the Pandavas surrendered to Lord Krishna, who was intellectually good, he saved them. Otherwise, these 5 they would have gone long before. Arjuna didn't want to fight on the battlefield. Right? He wanted to pack up and just run away. So the point is, we ought to be intellectually good and not be passive. That's the meaning of ahimsa. Don't take it literally. We don't want another invasion by someone and we be passive. We've suffered a lot. A lot of our culture has been lost because of that.